Wow, she's pretty. Why don't I look like her? That looks so cool, I wish I could do that. These are the thoughts that go through my head when I'm scrolling. I constantly compare myself to others online and in real life. Watching these videos, the standards for being pretty become increasingly unrealistic, and it sometimes makes me forget about my own worth. But ever since coming to T, my mindset has started to change. I've had amazing experiences and people surrounding me, and they remind me daily of how much I mean to them. My first trip at T was, to be honest, terrifying. What do you mean I'm going on a backpacking trip on the second day of school? I didn't really know anyone there, and to say the least, it was awkward. But hiking up a beautiful mountain, surrounded by unfamiliar faces, the silence slowly turned into conversation. And suddenly, those strangers became my closest friends. And unlike social media, these friendships that I've built are real. Behind a screen, people can take hundreds of redos, assuring that they always put their best foot forward. But in real life, we can show our best and worst faces and still be there for each other. My friends and family encourage me to pursue my hobbies and turn them into meaningful passions that I can carry through high school and the rest of my life. The first time I ran on a track, I was so nervous. I could feel butterflies in my stomach, and I was lightheaded. Then I heard the starter gun go off, and I started sprinting. I knew my friends were out there somewhere in the crowd, but all the sounds were drowned out by the blood rush in my ears and the sounds of feet beside me. I crossed the finish line with my friends by my side, knowing we had tried the hardest we could. And now, weeks after our last meet, I may have not gone first, but I still walked out of championships with a smile on my face. Because for me, athletics aren't just about personal growth, but about watching your friends achieve the goals that they have strived so hard to fulfill. I love getting to cheer them on and off the track, and it's helped me build really deep connections that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. If I had to describe my time in middle school in one word, I would say challenging. I'm not saying this because I found my time at T difficult, but rather because I've been challenged both mentally and physically by my peers, teachers, and coaches. I remember a T trip that really tested my perseverance and ability to overcome challenges, and this was the San Luis Obispo expedition. The trip pushed me to try new things, like surfing. My cousins had always tried to get me to surf, but I was too afraid to go out where the big waves were, so I stayed behind on the sand. On the slow trip, I was required to try, so I put on my wetsuit and headed out towards the shore. The instructors were really nice and assisted us in learning the basics of surfing. When we finally got in the water, most of us were catching waves and standing up on our boards. On my third wave, I stood up, but my stance wasn't steady enough and I hit the water. The rope velcroed to my ankle, yanked me under, and surprisingly, I felt the tightening of the cord around my neck. I was scared that I wouldn't be able to get out of this. But in the spur of the moment, I ducked, the cord slipping over my head, and I broke through the surface of the water. I took in the salty air, looking around to see if anyone saw. I think a part of me was embarrassed. But I still took that moment and jumped back on my board, knowing that failure shouldn't stand in the way of success. Online, no one shows the parts where they fall in panic. Most influencers only post themselves standing steady on the board, effortlessly riding the waves. But those uncertain moments do exist, and it's just something for us to learn from. Thinking back on it now, I don't know how I was brave enough to get back on my board and keep trying. Normally, I would have let embarrassment take over and stop me from trying. In that moment, though, the biggest judge of myself was me, and everyone else was falling and getting back up, so why shouldn't I? I'm proud that even though I had a difficult moment, I was able to jump back up and keep moving forward. Coming up from the Bay, I was scared everyone would hate me. I didn't want to go to a new school, especially so far away from my friends in my old life. But here at T, I've made friends who have given me a new perspective and prepared me for the real world. They've taught me that being out of your comfort zone isn't something to be afraid of, but something to learn from. And I'm not saying that I magically became ready for high school overnight. I still have so much more room to improve. But whether it's standing at the start of a race or paddling out into terrifying waves, being able to go into unpredictable situations and coming out more confident is a win. I will take that same mindset that I used to jump back on my surfboard and carry that into high school with me. Watching influencers online and comparing yourself to others is hard for everyone. But as a perfectionist, I always try my hardest. And if you put in the most effort, that's when you're most vulnerable to be let down. From the start of first grade, I've let failure define me. In my mind, if I'm not 2 steps ahead, I'm 3 steps behind. If I get extra credit but my friend gets more, somehow that's a loss. This is such a challenging perspective to have, especially in middle school when everyone is still trying to figure themselves out. It's difficult for rising high schoolers to look at social media and compare themselves to every new person who pops up. Eventually, it gets tiring trying to keep up with standards, and we can face consequences that we weren't prepared to take on. But now, being able to understand that no one is perfect, I take letdowns as a chance to learn. If you take what you were unsuccessful in, you can use it to grow and do better on your next job. It's hard to change, but I've taken this as an opportunity. A chance to be the person who can help people when they need it. During the semester, I've learned a lot about social media and the effects this has on our environment, our community, and ourselves. I want to help people be more aware of what they eat, what they put on their face, and what they wear. To shine a light on the dark sides of what social media really is, and why we feel the need to compare ourselves to a filter. Real life is awkward conversations, last place in races, failed attempts at surfing, and mistakes. But along with all that comes growth, happy memories, uniqueness, and stories to share. So why do we feel the need to change ourselves? Ask yourself this question when you compare yourself to someone you've never even met. Why should we be so willing to become someone else who gets do-overs? Someone who gets filters, edits, and a script? Because that's not real life. Confidence doesn't come from being someone else, but from accepting who you are. And that's something I'm still learning every single day. To break out of the habit of comparing myself to everyone, I've learned to appreciate my own qualities and strengths. Social media makes it easy to look at other people's lives and feel like they're more successful or happier. But I've realized that what I see online is only a small part of reality. Now, instead of comparing myself, I take the time to question my thoughts about others. I remind myself that everyone grows at their own pace. And if I take the time to celebrate my wins, no matter how small, I can feel proud of the person I am. A few months ago, I realized that to change my mindset, I also needed to change my habits. So I became more conscious of the kind of content I consume. Because if I constantly watching people who I compare myself to, I will stay the same. But by taking small steps and being more mindful of what I watch, I feel less influenced by comparison, and I can finally find the value in myself. Because it's time to realize that comparison isn't a healthy way to define mine or anyone else's worth. A year ago, my class read The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan. The book dives deep into what people eat and how it impacts their health. The main goal was not to make you a vegan, but to be more aware of what you eat and put on your body. A quote I think highlights the main theme is, "To eat with the fuller consciousness of all that is at stake might sound like a burden, but in practice, few things in life can afford quite as much satisfaction. By comparison, the pleasures of eating industrially, which is to say eating in ignorance, are fleeting." This contrasts with the cut-fat, no-calorie obsession that is sweeping the internet. Pollan argues that eating healthfully doesn't mean eating with no calories. It means eating nutritionally and eating ingredients you trust. This is a point I really connected with, because it helped me learn more about what I put in my body and where our products really come from. I now look for labels and food that I can recognize. Because of what I've learned, I feel more informed about my choices, and I'm confident when I buy things. Everyone in my life has taught me something very valuable. It isn't about what's on the screen or who's prettiest. It's about being someone who's kind, who takes risks, and who's real. Someone who can support their friends, and someone who knows when they need help. I know I'm not perfect, but that's what makes us human. So, as I finish my presentation, I've made countless mistakes, and there are times I wish I could redo. But I've also grown in so many different ways I could have never guessed. I've learned how to stand up for myself, how to let go, and how to persevere when things are hard. I've gone from someone who doesn't know who they are to someone who learns something new about themselves every single day. And although I'm still not fully sure of who I am, I'm proud to see how far I've come. I'm so grateful for all the opportunities I have been given by my friends, my teachers, and my family. They've pushed me past my limits at times, but this helped me to reach out of my comfort zone to achieve my goals. I'm ready to walk forward into high school, carrying all the lessons I've learned throughout my time in middle school. As I was writing this presentation, I was thinking about this quote by Dale Carnegie. There are always two speeches, the one you practiced, the one you gave, and the one you wished you had given. But for me, this isn't just about speeches. It's about our lives. There's the one you dream about, the one you live, and the one you wished you had lived. So let's change the script. Let's live the life we dream about instead of wishing we had. Thank you for your time. Any questions?